Sup nerds, I'm Wes.
And I'm Aaron.
We're Nevermore Gaming, and we're taking a look at the Shifting Sands edition of Egizia.
Coming to Kickstarter by Stronghold Games. In Egizia, you take on a tribe of builders. We're all the best builders in Egypt, and the Pharaoh has commissioned us to build him all of these awesome monuments in his name. So he wants you to build an obelisk and a pyramid and
The colonnade and statues,
all this
Sphinx.
Yeah, all this fun stuff.
That's 5.
So he wants you to build all these things. So we're going to be placing our ships, which are kind of like our workers, down and collecting things as we go down the Nile River to make us stronger, to collect more supplies, to allow us to actually build these things that we build.
So the main mechanic of the game is a worker placement game, but unlike most worker placement games where you can just go on the board and it's where you're sending your workers, we're flowing down the Nile River. And it kind of reminded me of the old Mississippi River game that we played a while back.
I forget what it's
I
called.
don't remember what it's called. Where you're moving down the river and you can only move down. So there is a lot of blocking and eliminating spots because you're like, okay, I want to go here. But if I go here, he's going to go there. So maybe I want to go below that to block him from that space. Or if I go here, in a 4-player game, you know that the next 3 spots are guaranteed to not be available. So I kind of want this one, but if I go there, I don't have access to that one. So it does create a lot of strategy and planning ahead as to where you're going to place your ships in the worker placement. Everything is good. And especially once you've played a few games, you start recognizing that early in the game, you build a lot of your fields that help you get your wheat and your stone that help you build things later on. And they're not as plentiful later in the game, or the ones you have are kind of harder to harvest from. So it's definitely important to plan ahead even round to round of okay, I want to make sure that I'm getting enough stone quarries and wheat fields that I can have the resources. Because later in the game, when you're building on the obelisk and the pyramid, you need 9 stone to go here.
The top one.
So you need 9 stone, which means you need 9 worker power, which means you need at least 9 wheat. So all of that compounding, you definitely want to slowly build up your tableau of things that you have, and not just this is great right now, but you need to plan ahead a little bit as you go.
So there are 5 monuments that you're building at, but there's only 3 building spaces to go to. The top section is the obelisk and the colonnade. The second section is the statues and the pyramid, and the last building section is for the Sphinx. And they all kind of do things differently in the way they give you bonuses and the way they score points. So in the top section with the obelisk and the colonnade, you're going to be spending your stone and strength equal to the spaces you're trying to go on. So the colonnade, you're building across, and you start at one side, and it gets harder and harder to build. And with the obelisk, we're all just kind of piling on top of each other, and each spot is a little harder to build, so it costs more strength and more stone. You'll score points based on the amount of stone you spend. So you have to you're spending 3 stone on the obelisk and 4 stone down there, you're going to get a total of 7. If you spend the 7 stone, you'll get the 7 victory points as long as you have the 7 strength to do it. If you overspend on anything, you have too much strength because you have to spend more workers, because your workers actually kind of build up as they go and they get stronger, but you only have 3 different types plus that wild one.
Yeah, so your worker track, it's not all right, I'm going to gain strength and then spend, you're not move up when you gain and move back down. It's your workers just get stronger and stronger, but you exhaust them each round when you use them.
So you might overspend a little bit.
Yeah, your worker might be at 7, but you need 5. But you're I have to spend the 7 guy to get the 5, and that 2 is wasted.
So why do you actually want to build in those 2 areas? Well, with the colonnade, once you get to the 3rd spot and the 5th spot, on top of those columns, there's little bonus tiles that'll be placed up there, and they give you different random awesome bonuses. You can see the top one that's there and be like, ooh, I want to be the first one to get there, so I take it. Because I got one that was, you produce 6 stones when you max out the top of the stone track instead of the normal 3. There's one that Wes had that was every time you place a brick on the board from now on, you get a victory point. Once you get to the purple ones that are a little stronger, the one that I got was once per round you can place a ship upstream, so it kind of breaks that whole rule of okay, once we passed it, I can't get to it. Well, now I can with this awesome bonus.
Mm-hmm.
So those are
I had one that let me place once per game. I could place 2 ships back to back.
These bonuses really help you with other things and help your engine and tableau kind of like just like, oh, okay, I can do these other things and I have these unique player abilities now.
Hey guys, Wes from the future here. I do have one small correction there. The special ability tiles in the colonnade, you don't draw them when you get to them, you just get access to that ability. So everyone in that game is going to have access to the same ability, and there's a lot of different abilities that it changes game to game, adding variability. It's going to make the game a lot better because that way the abilities will stay balanced, because arguably some of the abilities are better than the other ones. Anyway, back to the video.
Whereas the obelisk is just bumping you up on these two tracks over here. The wheat track, the higher you up on the track, the less victory points you'll lose if you can't actually feed your workers. And the stone track, it's just as you go up the track, once you get to certain points, you get more stone. And once you max that track out, you'll be able to, at the end of the game, sell 2 stone for 2 victory points.
It's 1 point for every 2 stones. When you move down to the next building spot with your statue and your pyramid, I think the statues used to be graves in the old game, the original Egizia. We haven't played that one yet. But I do think in the Kickstarter there's a way that you can like flip your board over and play the original game with the stuff you get here. So it's like 2 games in 1 box. That's a quick promo. Back to the Kickstarter preview. With the statues, it's basically, you don't get points for building there, but you're basically, it's kind of like an end game victory point. You're committing to, all right, I'm going to, as you build up the different statues, it's saying, all right, if you get to here on this track, you get points, or if you build up on the obelisk or the pyramid or anything to a certain point or amount of bricks, then you're going to score more points depending on how high you go. And as you build up the pyramid, it unlocks new tiers. So like on the brick and obelisk one. So the first tier, it costs you 1 power, 1 brick. If you get two or more bricks in the obelisk, you get 2 points. If you build the second tier, it costs you another 2 bricks and 2 power. If you get 3 or more bricks in there, you get 5 power. Now, if you unlock that one, but you only get to 2, you still get the bottom one, and you have to build up the statue. You can't just build the top of the statue first, obviously. So, like, you have to slowly unlock as you go, but it gives you a way that at the end of the game, if you get to a certain point, then you unlock, or you gain extra points. And the pyramid is pretty straightforward. It's just, as you build the layers, you get points for each brick that you get. And then to build, like, on the second layer, you have to have, like, a brick here, and then you could build a brick that sits on top of it, like, as a pyramid would build. I think that's pretty straightforward. But there's also bonus points for filling up entire rows of the pyramid, or having the most bricks in a row once an entire row is completed. So you could try to build, like, just one little tiny pyramid all the way up, or you can build the entire bottom platform and try to unlock those bonus points that you get.
Because getting that extra bonus point per brick that you have in that row is really beneficial, because victory points are kind of like here and there you're getting a couple. The Sphinx is actually the last ditch effort of getting more points, and it's an end game scoring one, and there's secret objectives that you'll be getting. And it works a little different, because depending on where you put your ship in the harbor for the Sphinx building section, is how many cards you can actually get from that deck. So if you're the furthest one out and closest to the Nile River, you can spend 5 strength and spend 5 stones to get 5 cards. That's your max, and then it's 3 and 2. And with those cards, so I draw 5 cards. I'm like, sweet, I got so much I can look at here. You get to keep one of them, so you have a new objective to work towards. And every other card that you have to put back is a victory point.
So again, we haven't actually played the original Egizia. The Shifting Sands version is the first one we've played. But the new things that I believe it adds is, the one side of the river that has just like the stationary tiles, not the cards that you get. You get a whole like deck of tiles that replace them as you go. So every round you shuffle up your tiles and you deal them back out. So it causes the shifting of the sands.
Yeah.
And then the other big change is that the colonnade replaces the graves and the statues replace the temple.
So that's kind of the rules in a nutshell. You're going to be placing your ships, collecting either cards to like make you produce more things, or collecting these tiles, which will usually increase the strength of your workers, or you're going to be placing your ships and preparing to build at the end of the round. The game, it flows really nice. It's 5 rounds of that, where these cards are going to be replaced with better cards as you go. you definitely in the first round and second round, you want to get every spot because you want to have as much of the production as you can. Because later rounds, there isn't much production. It's more of like one-time bonus cards, which are very helpful as well, but they're not, something you're going to be able to count on. It's
Plus, once some of these tracks get to the top, there's ways if you overproduce, you can sell back to the pharaoh what you didn't use. So, like, even if okay, well now I have 25 wheat production every round, I'm only ever going to need I never get more than 10 strength. That's okay because that 15 extra you're going to sell back to pharaoh for 15 extra gets you at 5 extra points, which is not a small thing to get every round. So. It's definitely important to gain all that, the tableau that you're building early on.
This game is deeper than I thought it would be when I first looked at it. I'm like, okay, so we're just worker placement, getting things, but having to plan, okay, I want to build here and I want to build there, and there's kind of like a bonus if you cooperate and you build at multiple places. So you're like, okay, I want to build up in this top section and I want to build on the pyramid. So okay, I need to get 2 ships there. You really do have to, prepare and think about, okay, in the top section, if I, build here and I bump up the stone track, gives me 2 more stone, which I'll get before I go down to this next place where I'm going to build again. Now I have that 2 extra stone. So you have to kind of think a couple steps ahead before you even get to the end of the round when you get to that phase where you're actually building.
Yeah, it definitely is a really cool, unique take on worker placement because a lot of times in worker placement, the race is we both want to go here and I need to get there first. But in this game, it's definitely I want this down here, but I can't just jump to there because I need all this stuff up here first. But I want to leave that open so I get it, but if I don't jump ahead, he could. There's nothing stopping you from just skipping half the board and jumping way ahead, and everyone's gonna hate you, and your game's gonna go
really
kind of rough and really quick. But it creates a really new dynamic and a new way to think about the board as you're building things along, and I really liked that. The building in different places because you work down, so it's not just all right, I'm gonna build here and then build here, but all right, we're building here right now. So okay, well I want to build all this. But if I build all this, I'm not going to having enough stuff to build down here. And so you really have to plan out exactly where you're going to use each of your bricks and which workers and even the overspending. And you only have 4 workers.
And the purple worker actually isn't an extra worker. He only works with somebody else. So really you can build
at most 3 different places.
Which is perfect because there's 3 ports to build at. But if you're trying to build something really big up here, like you said, then you're kind of okay, well I can build up here.
Because there's also bonus points for doing things first. Building the colonnade first, you get a good number of bonus points for that. So you're going to want to dump a lot up here, but then maybe you don't have enough to get to the Sphinx. Or maybe somebody just shut you out of a place completely. And things like that make this game super cutthroat, super backstabby, but also really strategic. So you really have to be careful who you're backstabbing. Not who you're backstabbing, but when you're out to get somebody else versus when you're doing the best thing for you, because you can definitely do I'm gonna do this so I can do that, and you're oh, but I forgot I wanted to do this later on, or because I did that, now he's gonna take that spot that if I didn't screw him over like that, I could have gotten that spot. So all those things make this a really solid game.
I did think another cool thing about the building ports is there's only 3 ship spots. If you're playing a 4-player game, one person goes in there, next person. Okay, now it's full. The 4th person is screwed, right? Well, not really. They can kind of sit in the waiting, or I forget what the actual term was, but you can sit there, and if somebody else can't build or chooses not to actually build in that spot, they have to take their ship back, and then you get to take that spot and you can build. So you're
it could be a wasted ship.
It could be. You're oh, I want to build there, but everybody's taking it, so I'm going to hope that I get to use it. Or you just cut your losses, move further down the river, and actually secure yourself a card or a tile, and actually get a bonus.
If you can't tell, we've really enjoyed this game, and I definitely recommend backing this game. If you're into worker placement games, thinky games, but not huge, heavy, Lisboa-style worker placement games where it's mind-melting. It's definitely not a mind-melter, but it's a thinker. Then I think you're really going to enjoy this game.
I really enjoyed this as well. I definitely recommend backing this game.
If you're interested in checking it out, we're going to have a link to the Kickstarter campaign once it goes live in the description box down below, as well as a card popping up. Click on either one of those, get over to the Kickstarter, or if you're already there, either way, definitely this is one to back.
Either way, you should subscribe to our YouTube channel so you'll never be bored.